Ah, the sweet agony of holding on to something that was never yours to keep, clawing at closed doors, begging ghosts to stay. Cute, isn't it? Until it rips you apart. Until you realize you've been clutching a mirage, squeezing so tight that the only thing left in your hands is dust. But that's what we do, isn't it? We chase shadows, convinced that if we just reach a little farther, try a little harder, bleed a little more, it will come back. That relationship, that opportunity, that version of life we swore was meant for us. And when it doesn't, we break. We scream at the heavens, questioning why something so precious was ripped away. But here's the bitter pill you need to swallow. You weren't robbed, you were rescued. Because what you lost wasn't a blessing. It was a curse in disguise. People mourn what they lost, blind to the fact that it was never meant for them in the first place. You convince yourself that it was perfect, that if only you had done something differently, if only you had been stronger, smarter, more patient, then maybe, just maybe, it would still be yours. That's the illusion. That's the sickness of attachment. You rewrite the past, ignoring the cracks in the foundation, pretending the house wasn't already on fire long before it collapsed. But here's the reality. God doesn't remove what is meant for you. If He took it away, it was either poison or a prison. Either way, you were never meant to keep it. And yet, you hold on. You replay the moments, dissect the what-ifs, and refuse to move on. But let me ask you this. How long are you going to keep gripping a blade before you realize why your hands are bleeding? Because that's exactly what you're doing. Every memory you refuse to release, every prayer begging for what's already dead, every night spent aching for something that was never meant to stay, it's slicing you apart. And still, you won't let go. Why? Because pain is familiar. Because suffering feels like control. Because you'd rather hold on to a broken past than step into an uncertain future. But whether you like it or not, the past is gone. And you can either let go or be dragged. If God took it away, there was a reason. And that reason? It was poison. That relationship you keep crying over? It was draining your soul. That job you lost? It was keeping you small. That friendship that crumbled? It was built on sand, not stone. And yet, here you are, acting like you lost gold when all you really lost was a rusted chain that was keeping you shackled. You think you lost something valuable? What if I told you that thing you've been mourning was a ticking bomb, and God disarmed it before it could destroy you? I get it. You don't see it that way. Yet. Right now, all you feel is the emptiness, the aching void left behind. But soon, you'll see. You'll look back and thank God for not giving you what you thought you wanted. You'll realize that the loss wasn't a punishment, it was protection. But for now, all you need to do is accept this. It's gone, and it's not coming back. So stop chasing ghosts. Stop watering dead things. Stop reopening wounds that were meant to heal. Because this is not the end. This is the beginning. And if you let go of what's already lost, you'll finally make room for what's meant to be yours. The mind is a master manipulator. It turns pain into nostalgia, poison into perfume. You don't remember the sleepless nights, the slow decay, the way it drained the light from your eyes? No, your mind feeds you a highlight reel, softened edges, blurred out wounds. The illusion that what you lost was something worth keeping. You rewrite history, convincing yourself that it was beautiful, that it was right, that if only you had held on tighter, it wouldn't have slipped through your fingers. You forget the weight of it, the slow suffocation. You forget how it made you question your worth, how it left you empty long before it ever left your life. But the truth is that you're digging up a grave, hoping the corpse will come back to life. You stand there with a shovel, clawing at the dirt, desperate to revive something that was dead long before you buried it. But no matter how deep you dig, no matter how much you cry, scream, or bargain, it's not coming back. So why do you keep reaching for it? Why do you keep chasing what already let you go? Because the ego hates rejection. The heart hates abandonment. And both will lie to keep you trapped. Your ego wants to believe it wasn't your fault. That if you had done more, been more, given more, it wouldn't have ended. That if you could just get it back, you could prove your worth. Your heart wants comfort, even if it comes from the very thing that destroyed it. It wants familiarity, even if that familiarity is laced with suffering. But neither your ego nor your heart sees the truth. And the truth is this: if God removed it, it was already killing you. It wasn't love, it was a lesson. It wasn't security, it was a cage. It wasn't a blessing. It was a slow, silent poison seeping into your soul. And if you refuse to let it go, if you keep holding on, mourning it, worshiping it, you will rot alongside it, because that's the cost of refusing to move forward. You stay stuck. You become bitter. You waste years looking back at something that was never meant to last. And all the while, the future that God designed for you, the peace, the purpose, the power, sits there, waiting. But you can't reach for it, not when your hands are still full of ghosts. So this is your choice. Keep digging, keep aching, keep trying to breathe life into a corpse that will never wake up. Or drop the shovel, turn away, and finally step into the life that was meant for you. The past is dead. Let it stay buried. You call it a loss. You call it unfair. But what if I told you it was protection? What if I told you that the thing you're grieving was the very thing that would have wrecked you beyond repair? A storm doesn't destroy. It clears the path. It tears down the weak, the unstable, the things that were always meant to crumble. And you're standing in the ruins, mourning something that was never built to last. You don't see it yet, but what was taken from you wasn't for your harm. It was for your survival. You didn't see the danger, the betrayal waiting just around the corner, the slow decay behind the illusion of stability, the poison seeping through the cracks. But God did. He saw what was coming, the collapse, the heartbreak, the destruction that would have left you shattered beyond repair. And so, he did what you wouldn't. He stepped in and removed it before it could consume you. You call it cruelty, you call it injustice, but let's be honest. If he hadn't ripped it away, would you have let it go? No. You would have stayed, convinced you could fix it, clinging to something that was already killing you. That's why the removal had to be violent. That's why the loss had to shake you to your core. Because without the pain, you would have never walked away. Faith isn't tested when life is comfortable. It's tested when everything falls apart and you're left with nothing but questions. Do you trust what's happening, even when it makes no sense? Or do you keep fighting Keep clawing. Keep trying to revive something that was already dead. Faith means surrender. It means believing that what was taken wasn't a punishment, but a redirection. That the thing you wanted so desperately wasn't a blessing. It was a curse in disguise. You think you lost love? No. You lost betrayal dressed as devotion. You think you lost a dream? No. A trap that would have kept you small? You think you lost stability? No. You lost a cage that tricked you into thinking you were free. So now you stand at the crossroads. One path leads backward to the same suffering, the same illusions, the same cycle that nearly broke you. The other, forward, into the unknown, into the future God was clearing the way for. Would you have chosen to walk away on your own? No. Pain had to be your wake-up call. The loss had to be loud enough to drown out your denial. The absence had to be undeniable, because anything less, and you would have never left. God didn't take it away to punish you. He took it away to prepare you. Stop mourning the wreckage. It wasn't your home, it was your prison. And God just set you free. You knew. You felt it in the pit of your stomach. That gnawing discomfort, that whisper of doubt. The red flags weren't hidden. They were waving right in your face. But you looked away. You made excuses. You convinced yourself that if you just tried harder, if you just gave a little more, things would change. God whispered. A quiet warning in your soul, a feeling you couldn't shake. You ignored it. So he nudged. A moment of clarity, a glimpse of the truth. Maybe it was a lie you caught, a betrayal you overlooked, a promise broken right in front of you. But still, you stayed. Then he screamed. Chaos erupted. The cracks you tried to ignore became impossible to hold together. And when you still wouldn't leave, he ripped it away. You call it a tragedy. But let's be real, wasn't it doomed from the start? Think back. How many times did you tell yourself, this doesn't feel right, only to push the thought aside? How many times did you feel drained, disrespected, diminished, but still refused to walk away? You weren't blind. You just didn't want to see. You were given signs, repeatedly. That gut feeling when something felt off but you dismissed it as overthinking? That was the first warning. The tension that never fully faded, the way your energy felt drained, the way you had to constantly convince yourself that things were fine, that was the second. And when things finally shattered in front of you, when what you feared became undeniable, that was the last and final sign, the one that could no longer be ignored. Now you replay the past like it's a puzzle to be solved, as if dissecting every memory will somehow change the outcome. You're searching for a reason, a moment, a mistake that explains why things turned out this way. But the answer isn't hiding in the details. It's been staring at you this whole time. It wasn't meant for you. If something collapses, no matter how hard you fight to hold it together, that's not misfortune. That's divine intervention. If something is taken despite your desperate attempts to keep it, that's not a mistake. That's mercy in disguise. Because let's be honest, if it had been up to you, you would have stayed. You would have kept ignoring the pain, kept trying to fix what was never whole in the first place. You would have kept drinking poison and calling it water. So God did what you couldn't. He tore it away. He shut the door you kept forcing open, not to hurt you, but to save you. And yet, here you are, still mourning what was never meant to be yours, still searching for explanations in a graveyard of what-ifs, still thinking maybe, just maybe, you lost something valuable. But let me remind you of a hard truth. You didn't lose anything worth keeping. You begged for a sign. But signs aren't always gentle. Sometimes they come as doors slammed shut, as people walking away, as the life you planned crumbling to dust. Because if God didn't make it unbearable, you would have stayed. Stop trying to rewrite a story that was never meant to have a happy ending. Stop asking why things fell apart. They didn't fall apart. They fell into place. The signs were there from the start. You just didn't want to see them. Now you have no choice but to face the truth. It wasn't taken to punish you. It was taken to free you. And if you can finally accept that, you'll realize the greatest blessing wasn't in what you lost. It was in what you were saved from. You think the pain comes from losing them, from watching that situation slip through your fingers, from seeing the door slam shut when you weren't ready? No. The pain isn't from the loss. The pain is from your resistance to it. You're suffering because you won't accept reality. Because you're still clenching your fists around something that's already gone. You're not mourning what you lost. You're mourning the illusion that it was ever meant to stay. But let me ask you something. Would you stand inside a burning house, screaming at the flames, begging them to stop? Would you keep reaching for memories while the fire devours everything around you? Or would you turn around and walk out the door? Because right now, that's exactly what you're doing. You're standing in the wreckage of something that's already been reduced to ashes, acting like if you just scream loud enough, if you just hold on a little longer, you can bring it back. You can't. And the longer you cling, the more you suffer. You know what happens when you grip something that's cutting you? You bleed. And yet, here you are, holding on to the shards of what was, wondering why your hands are still covered in wounds. God isn't punishing you. He's trying to pull you out of a losing battle. And he doesn't need your permission to do it. If you won't let go willingly, he will rip it from your hands. If you won't walk away, he will drag you out kicking and screaming, because he sees what you don't. The destruction ahead, the slow decay, the slow poisoning of your spirit. So tell me, what are you still holding on to? A relationship that drained you? A situation that broke you? A dream that wasn't built on a solid foundation? And more importantly, why? What are you waiting for? An apology? Closure? A sign that makes it all make sense? Let me save you the time. You won't get it. Not because you don't deserve answers, but because you don't need them. The only answer you need is the one staring you in the face. It's gone. You're drinking poison, hoping it turns into wine. You're waiting for something lifeless to resurrect itself. You're fighting a battle that's already been decided. So ask yourself, what am I holding on to? That's already dead? And when you have your answer, let it go. Because no matter how tightly you cling to the past, it won't change what's already written. But moving forward, that's still in your hands. You keep asking the wrong question. You keep looking up at the sky, fists clenched, demanding answers. Why did this happen to me? Why did I have to lose them? Why did this fall apart? But what if you asked something different? What if, instead of crying over what was taken, you asked, what is this preparing me for? See, you think this loss is the end. You think it's a punishment, a cruel twist of fate. But what if it's a beginning? What if it's a door opening, disguised as one closing? A snake doesn't shed its skin because it wants to. It sheds because it must. Because clinging to old skin suffocates it. Because growth demands that the past be left behind. And you're clinging to what you've outgrown. You're gripping the past so tightly that your knuckles turn white, refusing to accept that what was can no longer be. But here's the truth. If it was meant to stay, it wouldn't have left. The discomfort you feel? It's not because you lost something valuable. It's because you're standing on the edge of something new, afraid to step forward, afraid to embrace the unknown. But that's the thing about the unknown. It only feels like a threat until you step into it. What comes next is better. It always is, but only if you make room for it. You can't receive new blessings with hands full of dead weight. You can't step into your future if your feet are still planted in the past. So, let me ask you, when will you stop resisting? Because resistance is what's breaking you. Not the loss itself, not the pain of moving forward, but your refusal to do so. The power isn't in fighting against what's gone. The power is in accepting it. When you stop begging for what's been removed, when you stop clawing at the doors that have already been locked, that's when you'll start healing. Not a second before. You can grieve. You can cry, scream, break down in the dead of night. But there's one thing you cannot do. You cannot go back. Because what's gone is gone. And the only thing left to do is walk forward into what's waiting for you. And trust me, something is waiting. But you'll never see it if you keep looking behind you. The fire you walked through, it didn't just burn away what was holding you back. It burned away the old you. You are not the same person who begged, who chased, who held on too tightly to what was already slipping through your fingers. That version of you, gone, reduced to ashes, and in its place, something new was born, something stronger, something colder, something unbreakable. They thought the loss would destroy you. They thought you'd crumble, drown in your own tears, stay frozen in the past, like a ghost haunting its own grave. But you rose. A broken wing doesn't mean the bird will never fly again. It means that when it does, it will fly stronger, wiser, more cautious of the storms. You see things differently now. You don't beg. You don't chase. You don't waste your energy clinging to things that were never meant for you. Because you understand now, what is meant for you will find you, and what isn't will fall away, no matter how tightly you hold on. That realization, it shifted everything. You no longer fear loss. You no longer resist what's being removed. You trust. Because you've learned that when something is taken, it's not a setback. It's a setup for something greater. And that's where the power shift happens. They expected you to be broken. They expected you to be bitter, lost, desperate to reclaim what was gone. Instead, you became something unrecognizable. They won't even recognize the person you've become. And here's the irony. When you rise, when you rebuild, when you step into the version of yourself you were meant to be, they'll try to come back. Not because they care, not because they've changed, but because they can feel it. the shift, the strength, the absence of the old you, the one who would have let them back in without hesitation. But you won't be in the same place they left you. They'll look for you in the ruins, but you won't be there. You're already gone, already above it, already out of reach. And when they realize that, that's when the real regret begins. But that's not your burden to carry. Your only job now? Keep rising. Because this is just the beginning. Funny, isn't it? How the very thing that once shattered you now makes perfect sense. The betrayal, the rejection, the loss. Back then, it felt like a curse. Like the universe had turned against you. Like God had forgotten your name. But now you see the blessing in the wreckage. That storm that tore your world apart, the one you cursed, fought, and resented, it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to clear your path, because without it, you would have stayed, stuck, small, chained to something that was never yours to keep. You thought you were losing everything, but in reality, you were being freed. And now look at you. You're no longer begging for tables you were never meant to sit at. You're no longer shrinking yourself just to be accepted. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't waste your energy on doors that were slammed in your face. Because you finally understand what's truly meant for you will never require you to beg for it. You've reclaimed your power. Your energy is no longer wasted on things, people, or dreams that were never aligned with you. And in that space, where loss once lived, something greater is taking root. Peace, clarity, strength. You see, God never takes without giving. But here's the thing. He won't give you something new while your hands are still full of what's already dead. So he removes, he redirects, he clears. And that's what happened to you. What left wasn't a punishment. It was a divine exchange, a clearing of space, a preparation for something greater. And now, as you stand here, stronger, wiser, unshaken, you finally get it. You don't want back what you lost, because you've outgrown it. And soon, what's coming will make you grateful for everything that left. You'll look back and smile, not with regret, but with understanding, because now you see it for what it truly was. Not a loss, but a rescue. Not a punishment, but a divine redirection. And for that, you'll thank God every single day, because what's ahead is far greater than anything you left behind. The past is done. The future is waiting. Now walk forward and don't look back. You don't chase anymore. You don't beg. You don't hold your breath, waiting for something that was never meant for you. Because now you know what's meant for you will find you. And what left was never yours to begin with. The power has shifted. You used to cling to things, people, and dreams that drained you. You used to exhaust yourself, proving your worth to those who never deserved you. But now you trust. Because life has already shown you, when God removes something, He's not taking, He's making room. And when you stopped fighting the loss, you started winning. They thought they buried you. They thought you would stay broken. They thought you would never recover. They didn't know you were a seed. That loss? It didn't end you. It transformed you. Because every great transformation starts with something being taken away. Every strong soul is forged in the fire of loss, betrayal, and rejection. But instead of letting it break you, you let it build you. Instead of falling apart, you rose. And now, those who doubted you, those who walked away, those who thought you would crumble under the weight of your pain. They'll have no choice but to watch from a distance, because you're not in the same place they left you. You're not the person they abandoned. You are more. You are stronger. And you don't need what left. So let it stay gone. Let them regret it. Let them watch from the sidelines. And you, keep rising.